And welcome to the 25th user group event of 2020. If you've missed any of our events, please log into our website and you can access videos for all those events through our event archive. Who would have thought in early March this year, when we were making the sad decision to cancel our annual conference for June, that we would have had such a successful year with fantastic support from our members and our partners. We'd like to thank you all very much. It's been great. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Amanda Miller and I'm the manager of the user group. The user group is run by a committee of volunteers who all work for IFS customers, and we also have a couple of committee members who work for IFS and who assist us with liaison between our members and the company. The user group is independent of IFS, which allows us the freedom to react to requests from our members. And as members, we need you to stay in touch with us and let us know if ever you have any concerns or requests that you'd like us to follow up on your behalf. So today, IFS Growth Partner of the Year, Vanilla Solutions, will be presenting on how Dell Boomi acts as a digital switchboard, enabling rapid connection of applications and data sources to IFS applications. The presentations will be jointly hosted by Dell Boomi and will show how cloud-native solution with over 200 pre-built Boomi connectors can build integrations faster and reduce development time by weeks or months, resulting in faster time to value. If you'd like to ask any questions during the presentation, please do so using the Q&A option. Please add your name so that we know who's asking, and I'll put all the questions to our presenters at the end of the presentation. If we don't manage to get through all the questions, we will ask for them to be answered after the event. The event today will be recorded and the video will be available to all members on our website a few days after the event. Our presenters today are Neil Carter, who is the Senior Developer at Vanilla. Neil joined Vanilla in 2017. He has a broad IFS application knowledge gained in the manufacturing and construction sectors in techno-functional roles. His project management background allows him to quickly understand customer requirements and to interpret those to deliver user-focused technical solutions. Peter Sketch, EMEA ISV lead from Dell Boomi. Peter joined Boomi in May 2019 as the EMEA ISV lead. He's responsible for establishing and developing relationships between Boomi and other ISVs in EMEA. In this role, he manages the overall relationships between Boomi and IFS. Prior to joining Boomi, Peter was the ISV lead for Microsoft UK. But I'm going to start by handing you over to Philip Haddon, Vanilla Account Manager. Philip joined Vanilla in September 2020 to fulfill a new role as account manager for their installed base customers. Prior to joining Vanilla, he spent over 19 years at IFS UK, working in various positions, most recently as a senior account manager. Philip has previous experience in a number of other roles, including logistics director, IT manager, and as a consultant selecting and implementing ERP solutions. So I shall hand you over to Philip. There we are. There you go, Philip.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time. So in front of you, you should see the agenda. Well, I'll start off by just saying a little about Vanilla, and from that we will go over to Peter, who will cover Dell Boomi and the relationship. And finally, Neil will cover the examples of integrations and EDI integrations that we've been working on. And we'll, as said, we'll have a question and answer session at the end. So Vanilla has been in existence for just over 11 years. And in that time, we've grown, as you can see, to 49 employees and growing. For your information, we have offices, 2 in the UK, 1 in Brigg near Hull, and a little further north in Newcastle, where we have our support operation. We also now have an office in Seattle, and as you can see, we're 4 million turnover and growing. And we're very proud of the fact that we have BSI 9001, as you can see on the right hand side, and BSI 27 and 1 information security management recently obtained. We're here to concentrate on Boomi today, where we are an official partner, able to sell and implement. But as you can see, we're also a Gold Channel partner and Gold Services partner. And also we are a partner of Novacura Flow, which possibly a number of you in the audience already have. A little more on ourselves, just for those that don't know much about Vanilla Solutions. We have a large consultancy base where we can cover the whole IFS app from a functional point of view, and you can see that we employ people from industry, and we train them up and certify them, and they've got a deep industry focus. Technology wise, as you can see also on the left hand side, we have a large technology team which Neil is part of, and again we're very strong in that area. We have an offering called Continuum, which is, as it sounds, is for continuous improvement. It's a subscription, a yearly subscription methodology with a fixed monthly fee, which just makes it easier to work with us for functional and technology services. Finally, our support operation, as I've briefly said, is in Newcastle. We provide what we call a structured support. Again, a fixed monthly fee and limited support based on the number of users and the type of users, and fully SLA driven. And lastly, we also have our own cloud hosting capability, Vanilla Application Management, where it's fully supported and managed by ourselves. Forgive me. My last slide is just give an example of the industries that we operate and specialize in, and a number of customers that we've selected onto the slides. I'm not sure who the audience is, but I do hope that you can, some of you can recognize your own companies there, and we're very proud of the user base that we have and the industries that we specialize in, and we'd love to talk to you if you've never dealt with us before. Thank you.
Okay,
so I'll hand over now.
Okay, lovely, thank you.
Hi everybody, great to speak to you all, and thanks for the introduction, Phil. I'm going to spend a little while now just talking about the relationship between IFS and Boomi, talk to you a little bit about Boomi as a platform, and as we say, as Neil goes on, following on after me, he'll talk to you a little bit more about the specifics of how the product works, show you an example of the IFS specific elements that we're adding into the Boomi platform in action, and then as we go through, we'll all take questions and answers at the end. So first of all, what I'd like to do is just talk a little bit about who Boomi are as a company. As Amanda said at the beginning, my role in Boomi is building the relationships with ISV partners, and I manage the relationship overall between Boomi and IFS. And Boomi are, we would say we're the #1 cloud iPaaS vendor. So iPaaS integration platform as a service. You can take your pick around whether we're #1, #2 kind of thing, but we're one of the very leading iPaaS vendors today. And we are a low-code iPaaS vendor. So our platform is based on drawing things on pages and configuration of things rather than writing script and code. That's very important in the relationship that we share with IFS, because the rapid time to value and low total cost of ownership themes that IFS customers will have heard from IFS are very common to the way that Boomi looks at the market as to what's important as well. And I'll come back on look at the kind of commonality between Boomi and IFS and the way we view things as I go through. So a little bit of background about who Boomi are first of all. We were founded in 2000, actually as a sort of mid-market EDI vendor originally. So we've been around over 20 years now, and we delivered our first cloud product in 2007. And really, we were at the very start of defining the concept of what's become known today as iPaaS. So we've been in the iPaaS market, or probably longer than there's been an iPaaS market to be in. We were acquired by Dell in 2010, so Dell actually used Boomi prior to acquiring the company to enable the integration of ERP and CRM systems when they acquired EMC. And then after using us as part of that integration, they actually bought the company in a kind of razor kind of way. What was his name? Victor Kayam, for those of you that are old enough to remember that. Liked it so much they bought the company. But the I think one of the critical components of this is that Boomi is a Dell Technologies business. We act as a kind of wholly owned subsidiary of Dell, if you like. The great part of what that gives us from a structural perspective is we are wholly focused on what we do, which is, as you'll come to see, looking at integration and the value of data and the way that placing data in the right places can increase the value, etc. But we're part of a very, very, very large organization, so that means that from a funding and stability and growth and investment in the product, etc., we get the benefits of being part of a large organization, financial long-term security, all of those things, but we are focused on what we do as if we were a small independent business. So we hopefully get the best of both worlds. We have about 12,500 customers worldwide today, and we process about 2.3 billion integrations a month through our platform. So we have a large platform and a large customer base, and you'll see 17,000 certified professionals, 65,000 active community members. So, you know, lots of people engaged actively in our platform worldwide, delivering across a number of customers and making use of our platform for a wide range of integrations. And I think the bottom two numbers are actually just as important as all the rest of them. So we have lots of people use our platform. And once people start using it, they keep using it. So we have a 97% renewal rate, and that's not just because once you start using it, it might be difficult to stop. People that use our platform like our platform. So we have thousands and thousands of customers worldwide today. People keep using it because they like using it. So all of that wrapped up together gives you a feel, hopefully, of why we are a leader, part of the reason we're a leader in our platform, and these two I think will back it up. Boomi's been a leader in this space, as I said, as long as there's a space to be a leader in. We've been top left in the Magic Quadrant as long as there's a Magic Quadrant being published for Enterprise Integration Platform as a Service. And this is actually this year's quadrant that was just published maybe a month or so ago. And Boomi's actually moved a little bit further up towards the top right, particularly in relation to some of our competitors who have kind of moved a little, in relation to us, moved a little bit in the opposite direction, which is always good to see from our perspective. And that really reflects, I think, part of the benefit that we get of being part of a larger organization, because we can continue to invest in the platform. So you don't stay top right for 7 years just by having a great product. You stay top right by having a great product and then keeping investing and developing and evolving the product. And I think we see that in the continued evolution of the way the platform works today and the additional capabilities we keep adding. So what is it we do? You kind of probably guessed that it's the bit on the left. We connect anything to anything. So IFS as an application connects to Boomi, Boomi connects to anything else. That's the kind of simplest way to think about it. And I'll talk a bit more about a platform approach in a second, but really our core capability is enabling the exchange of information across applications so that it can be shared, put in the hands of the right people, get it to the right applications, etc. We would say we engage anywhere, so it's about, as I said, getting that information to the right processes and the right people, and critically, particularly in an IFS environment, we run anywhere. So Boomi is a cloud platform, so platform.boomi.com literally is where our platform lives, delivered as a SaaS service. However, everything in our platform runs as a SaaS service apart from the execution of actually moving data from place to place, which is deployed as a little engine that can be installed anywhere. We call it an atom. Obviously, in an IFS world where you have choice about the infrastructure that you've used to, the architecture that you use to deploy IFS, we want to be able to, it's critical that we can mimic that choice as well. So you can deploy this engine, the bit that actually moves data from place to place, on-premise in your private network, you can deploy private cloud, you can deploy it in public cloud, you can have a hybrid structure to it, you can deploy it in whatever way suits you to give you complete control of where your data actually flows. So if you deploy our Atom, our engine on-premise, your data, if that engine was connecting, you know, IFS to SharePoint, I think, as you'll see later on, your data never comes to Boomi. It goes through the engine, deployed wherever you put that engine. The metadata, the design of the processes is what comes to and from the Boomi platform, not the data itself. So you get the choice of where, you know, how does that data flow and where do you move it, and how do you make the data secure, and all the kinds of things you could do. So from a platform perspective, we talk about integration. So integration, kind of, you know, what is it, 9 o'clock on that wheel, being the core of what we do, but we build around that a number of other services as well. And this is one of the unique capabilities of Boomi as a platform. We focus on integration. It's what we're best known for, obviously. But in addition to that, we use that capability to then extend the functionality of the platform overall. So other areas that we also have solutions that build on top of that. Master Data Hub is a master data management functionality built on top of our integration. So, you know, which application is going to master that particular piece of content and make sure that all other applications consume that content from that application. Extend those integrations into B2B and EDI. So if you have trading partners with whom you communicate from an EDI perspective, the Boomi platform has full EDI capability, both direct to trading partners and or connecting to vans if you want to. You can extend all of the other functionality within the Boomi platform and expose them as APIs. So this isn't about using APIs to connect to other applications, which we obviously do. This is about taking all the work that you build within the Boomi platform and exposing that work as an API that you can then call through another API gateway, for example. The reason you want to do that, obviously, is that you can then make use of all the information, the processes, the work that you do in Boomi in other applications, for example. So you put up a web page that uses Boomi to power it to get the data it needs, etc. So you can do all of that. And we have our own workflow development environment called Flow, which is the ability to build full mobile solutions, web solutions that again enable, for example, people to interact with these workflow and integration processes. And down bottom left, an example of the investment that we continue to make in the platform. We acquired a company last year called Unify, which is all about data catalog and preparation. So finding dark data, understanding its structure, bringing it into the light, enabling you to discover that information and then bring it into the main integration part of your business. So all of that together is our platform, all centered around the data in your organization, and we wrap around it layers of intelligence to help wrap it down to value, to help you get value from the investment in Boomi and understand your data more quickly. So we do things like if you're connecting one application to another and lots of other people have done that same integration in the past, you can say, have you got suggestions as to which fields I need to map to which fields? What's the table structures? Tell me all about it. And we will suggest, using a function called Boomi Suggest, we will suggest those right connections for you. So there's many layers of intelligence that we build using the metadata that we've captured in our platform over the years. So why do you want an integration in the first place? You're all probably, many of you are familiar with building integrations from IFS to other things. We would kind of think of them as point-to-point integration. So connect IFS to Salesforce, for example, and then to other applications. You end up with, you know, 3 or 4 integrations to develop and maintain, which can be problematic. You know, with 3 or 4, you're then going to think about versions and how do I maintain them and keeping them up to date and all the kinds of things you need to do. But then you kind of quickly realize that 3 or 4 isn't actually 3 or 4 because Salesforce wants to talk to Workday, and your map gets extremely confusing very quickly with only a few applications, and many of you will have many applications. So instead, what an iPaaS platform says is, don't connect anything to anything, connect everything to the cloud. So connect everything to Boomi, and then your same map looks much simpler. So any application is connected directly to only to Boomi in the middle. You build all your integration processes in Boomi, and then the data is any application which is connected to Boomi can share data and processes with any other application which is connected to Boomi. So what do we think are the essential characteristics of an iPaaS platform? Cloud native, Boomi is a cloud native platform, as we said, but we are distributed as well, so you can distribute the runtime component of our engine across whatever infrastructure is appropriate. You can deploy it wherever you need to from an architectural perspective. You can deploy it at the edge. You can do whatever you need to do to make that the structure of our environment work in your environment. Boomi is an open platform, so we're not tied to any particular set of applications. As Amanda said at the beginning, we have a couple of hundred application specific connectors that we've developed over the years, IFS now being one of those. We also have, I think, 14 now what we call technology connectors, which are not application specific. They allow Boomi to connect to an application and an endpoint using some kind of standard API. So that might be an OData connector or an HTTP connector or a web services connector, or all the way down to a CSV file sitting on a file share somewhere. So some kind of way of getting at the data. And you combine those two together, and we've connected, we reckon it's around 1,500 different applications that have been connected to the Boomi platform using the combination of those branded connectors, the application specific ones and the technology connectors, which enable us to connect to anything. And that openness, the not tied to any particular application, we don't live in a particular application world, is a critical component of the value of our platform. We basically say integration as a layer, as a part of your overall architecture. You stop thinking about, can I connect one application to another? It's not part of your kind of choice anymore. Integration, the capability to integrate, is just there in your environment. You start to then think about what data, how do I maximize the value of this data? What application data do I want to share with another one so that I can get the most benefit from and value from this data? That the simple task of doing it stops being part of the choice. You just choose to do it because that's the right place for it. Part of that, as I said, is the low code nature of our platform. You configure things, you draw things on a page, you don't write code, so the time to value is very high. And we are unique in our industry around having this unified platform that I touched on earlier on. So the fact that Boomi has integration, but we also have MDH and an API management layer and the ability to connect to EDI, etc. All of that is a unique of our platform. So that's kind of what we see as the critical components of iPaaS and Boomi as a platform. Now let's just talk a little bit about specifically the relationship between Boomi and IFS. So in February 2020, IFS and Boomi announced that we were forming a partnership. Boomi is IFS's chosen integration partner in their Technology Alliance program. So, and we're the only integration partner in that program. IFS is also a Boomi technology partner. So both ways, we're a Technology Alliance partner of IFS. IFS are a Boomi technology partner. Interestingly, and I think quite importantly as well, IFS are also a Boomi customer. So Boomi is used internally by IFS in their IT department, solving their own integration challenges. And when I talk in a minute about the way that we commonly build technology, that will become more interesting. And I think part of the key choice that IFS made with choosing Boomi was based around a number of things. Firstly, this idea of customer choice. Architecturally, the fact that we can live in the sort of architectures in which IFS has been deployed over many years, but in a modern cloud infrastructure where everything's in the cloud if you want to, or in an on-prem infrastructure where nothing's in the cloud, we can live in both extremes. And our openness and being non-application specific really enables us to enable IFS to really deliver a best of breed message. So to say, IFS as an ERP and a manufacturing customer, IFS will say we're great at doing that. And then when you want to get into a PLM solution or an MES solution, whatever, having Boomi as an integration platform enables you as customers to absolutely focus on what's the best application for doing this particular set of business processes, and really choose IFS because it's the best at what it does, and then choose an MES solution because it's the best MES solution for your particular market area. So I think that was a key part of the choice of Boomi. I think the rapid time to value, the low code, the ease of use, all of the things which drive towards a high return on your investment and rapid time to value were common themes across the two companies. And I think critically for IFS, one of the things that was a key driver to choosing an integration partner, and for the reasons that we talked about already, that partner turned out to be Boomi, but a key part of the reason they chose that they really wanted an integration partner in the first place was this journey that they're on towards delivering an evergreen platform. And I think the way I kind of interpret when IFS talk about evergreen is really the desire to be able to enable IFS customers to constantly being able to have access to the latest technology and the latest benefits that IFS deliver without being held back through complex upgrade cycles. And I think the complexity historically of delivering integration using IFS Connect, for example, where those integrations then become part of the platform rather than pushing integrations out of the platform and using a public API, a REST API, as IFS is choosing to do, has really drove them to want to think about finding a technology partner that would support that approach, and they chose Boomi for that. So as part of that technology partnership, we are jointly building specific connections between the Boomi platform and the IFS platforms. The way it works is Boomi provide an SDK to enable partners to develop those connections. Anybody can do it, and IFS have taken that SDK and they are building those connections. They're only building them for Boomi. Obviously, it's using a public API, so I would be completely disingenuous if I said you can, there's things that we do that other people can't because it's using a public API. However, what we do is we are using all of the skills that IFS have around the way their API works to make the connectors work in the most efficient and effective and functional way, because IFS are the ones that are actually writing the connector. They know how it works. They use it internally as well, and they are bringing all of their expertise and knowledge to the way that the connector functions, the best way to use their API, the tweaks and the enhanced functionality, all the kinds of things that they would want to do, and they're building that into the connector, and then we will deliver that connector publicly to all Boomi customers. So what you're getting really is specific IFS capabilities built into a connector which allows the Boomi platform to connect to IFS through their REST APIs and through other APIs I'll talk about in a second. So one of the really interesting things about the way that IFS do this is, and this is an IFS slide, typically if you look at the left hand side you might see an approach that says the API that an application publishes is particular for integration. So this kind of, if you look at the left hand side, the bit that says sort of third party talking to some open API, whereas their own clients use a completely different set of APIs potentially to talk to the business logic and the data and whatever within their application. So in some way, the third party interfaces, an integration tool like us, would be using a specific different set of capabilities to the way the client works. Really nicely in IFS, we actually all use the same set of APIs. So if you look at Arena as a client within IFS, you can literally look at the calls that Arena is making to learn what calls you want to do within Boomi, because we're literally using the same API calls. So it's just using the REST interface with a set of projections and a set of business entities within those projections. You literally just look in the log and you're kind of seeing what the connection is, and you're going to use that same connection within the APIs in Boomi. So the fact that we're all using those same public APIs obviously means that making sure that the capabilities that are available in Arena are also going to be available in the Boomi client. Well, we're literally using the same API calls to implement things. So what are we implementing as connectors? We have 3 connectors that we're delivering at the moment. The first is based around REST. So in IFS applications version 10, IFS introduced a REST interface to really support this drive towards the evergreen approach that we talked about earlier on. And really that REST interface came to fulfillment in IFS Apps 10 Update 8, and that's really the kind of bar to use the REST connector from Boomi. Really, it's the kind of bar to use the REST API, however you're going to be using it. So IFS Apps 10 bracket Update 8 is an OData interface, so we have an Apps 10 specific connector. And you'll see some really nice things in there that are IFS specific. So for example, IFS actions and functions are particularly identified within our connector. That's a good example, I think, of the connectors being built by IFS. We understand the IFS specific nature, so things like actions and functions are exposed sort of natively in the connector. For non-Apps 10 brackets Update 8 functionality, we also have a IFS Connect connector. Too many connects in that sentence, I'm sorry, but so that if you have logic that you've built using Connect, you can IFS Connect, you can connect to those web services from Boomi and make use of that functionality, both maybe on an ongoing basis, but perhaps also during a migration phase. So you could have a connector to IFS Connect, and maybe if you've got an IFS Apps 10 instance doing something else, you can have an Apps 10 REST instance as well, and you can use Boomi as the bridge between the two, you know, doing a stage migration or something like that, for example. And then finally, the third one that we're working on is a specific connector for IFS FSM for their field service management product. That's also an OData connector and shares a lot of the common code base with the REST connector. We expect that to be out this quarter. That is IFS FSM version 6, update 6 is the requirement there, but again, that's where the REST API really comes to fruition. So all of that stuff together really talks about Boomi and IFS together, building specific capability built by IFS using the SDK that the Boomi has developed to really enable you to quickly and easily use Boomi's low-code platform and the IFS connectors to bring IFS into the Boomi platform and to make use of the capabilities that platform gives you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Neil, who is going to show you some examples of these applications working together. So our platform connecting to IFS and a couple of little examples. So Neil, I'm just going to pull up your next slide so that you can talk about the examples, and I'll hand over to you.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so as you can see, we've got a two-part demo here for you today, showcasing the Apps 10 REST connector and the Connect connector that Peter's just mentioned. So firstly, a sort of mini integration project with SharePoint, a two-way interface where IFS is acting as the master data source for customer records, pushing those into a SharePoint list and a document library. And then a quick web form in SharePoint to create some projects against those customers within IFS. So a bit of a quirky use case scenario, admittedly, but the reason we've sort of chosen to show you this is we wanted to showcase the IFS connectors alongside the technology HTTP connector that Peter mentioned earlier. As we feel as really opens up some possibilities, some huge possibilities. Hopefully gives you a bit of food for thought. We could have shown you an IFS to another best of breed application where there's an existing application connector, but that would have been even simpler than what you're about to see here, to be honest. So I wanted to sort of bring some additional value to the presentation. Secondly, a very quick EDI demo that we've done for other people in the past, just showing how to get some inbound customer orders into IFS from 5 different message formats. Shown a few people this, and they've been really impressed by how quickly and easy it is to develop and maintain that connection within Boomi. What could otherwise be quite complex within IFS Connect. So let me share my screen and I'll show you the SharePoint integration first. Okay, hopefully we can all see that. So got a very simple list in SharePoint, customer list. Now we've got a document library here with some dummy customer data. So first things first, I'll just going to duplicate an existing customer. Going with a different registration number. Okay, save the record away. So this is all running in a development atom. Peter mentioned the sort of concept of atoms earlier on. So this is running in the cloud. This is polling every minute. You've got a lot of flexibility about how you schedule these sort of things. You can do weekdays or between particular hours or whatever. For purposes of this demo, got it running every minute, auto refreshing. So hopefully in a minute we'll see an additional record appear here. There we go. So we've gone up to 21. And sure enough, we've got the new list entry there with our new customer, and hopefully, yeah, we've got a new document library created. And then just to send some data back the other way, I'll create a project against my new customer using this simple web form. So submitted a list entry there from a web form. Hopefully when this runs through again, we'll get a project creation back the other way. There we go, one outbound. And there we go. So we've got our Bonfire Night project created from SharePoint. So what does that look like from within Boomi? So we've got 2 processes, the inbound and the outbound. So customers to SharePoint first. So this is using the IFS REST connector. So just as you see here, as Peter mentioned earlier, it's all purpose built with IFS in mind. So if you're familiar with the APS 10 REST connectors, hopefully this will look familiar. So you define your action, your object, and the projection, and then obviously you've got a model object here, and then you can add filter commands. In this case, I'm searching for anything with a non-null association number. So then we're doing 2 things here. So we've got some logic here. We're creating the list entry here, and then the document library on the second branch. So you see here we're checking whether the object already exists in the list, and then doing a update or insert accordingly. So I'll show you the mapping capability. In our usage of Boomi so far, I think this is where the real power lies. This can be a bit of a game changer, really. I think so. It's literally a case of defining your input model and your output model, and then building your map within this profile. And you can, of course, add additional functions within the map. So in this case here, we're making a callback to SharePoint to test whether that custom record already exists in the list, and if so, populating the ID field. So then here we're using the generic HTTP connector to post to SharePoint. So literally a case of defining your endpoint. In this case, not the best example because I've got that as a variable. So yes, it's a case of defining your SharePoint endpoint, and then letting that run. And again, on the document library side, very similar. Not a lot, not a lot to it really. It is really that straightforward. Building a JSON message to send to that endpoint. That's as simple as that. And then on the reverse side, so querying a SharePoint list, splitting the list items out, again doing another map. In this case, some logic on the string values, and with another connector call. And then running a post command. As simple as that. And then going the other way, SharePoint to IFS, similarly using the HTTP client to query the list. Again, map with a try catch logic, checking whether it exists or not already, and then running the create project. And again, so this using the IFS connector. So create action against a project using the project's handling projection. And then of course you can define parameters. So in this case, I'm querying for non-nulls. Similarly here, querying for list items created in the last 12 hours. So hopefully that's given you a quick flavour of how these processes are built, how simple they can look when you build them using this mapping approach. So I'll move on to the next one, which is the EDI demo. So we've got 5 different message types here. I'm not actually pulling this data from anywhere. I've hard-coded the messages. We'll take a look at those in a minute. I'm saying a property to ensure there's a unique customer order value, and then using that in each of these messages with a prefix to make it unique. So we've got a SOAP message, a raw, XML message. We've got a CSV flat file, JSON message. It's all the similar. It's all the same data across different messages, just in different formats. So we've got an X12 EDI message. So hopefully it's clear what we're doing here. So we've got the messages. Each one is transformed using its own map from the source profile to a common destination profile for the IFS customer order. And then we're adding a SOAP envelope where necessary. And then here we're using the IFS Connect connector that Peter mentioned earlier to create a application message. And of course, you can call the Biz APIs should you wish as well. So I'm just going to run that. So I haven't published this. Obviously, it's a bit of a one-shot deal here per customer order number. So I'm just running this as a test. And then you can see at each stage what each part is doing. I'll just move on to here. So you've got some logging information. You can see the 5 different messages. So at this stage, they'll have all been translated into the common SOAP message. So there we go. So that's our XML with the SOAP element, SOAP envelope added. Here's our CSV message converted to XML. So got the flat identifier there. And then message response has some logging information. So we can see our application message response has been returned, and we can of course use that value in the reporting that we looked at earlier. So just to confirm, so yes, we've got our 5 messages arrived. So we've got our X12, our JSON, CSV, XML, and the SOAP message all arrived. And hopefully we will have, 5 orders have arrived. So bit of a whistle-stop tour there. Hopefully that's given you some indication of what's possible and how easy it can be to build these models and build on them. Obviously, some very simple examples here, but we believe this can be really, really powerful. As I mentioned earlier, we've found so far the real power is in building these maps. I think if you're familiar with IFS Connect, trying to mimic this within IFS Connect would definitely take a lot longer, and I think it would be harder to maintain on an ongoing basis. So yeah, thank you very much. That was all I wanted to show today, so I'll pass back for the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Let me just pop myself back on the screen for a moment. Okay, so we have a couple of questions, so I shall make a start. So how does IFS's relationship with Boomi fit into the broader product strategy?
Let me take that one, Amanda. Thanks very much, everybody. Hopefully that, as Neil said, you got a real feel of the simplicity and the power of the platform. I think I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier on, so just to expand a little bit, I think it's really IFS's strategy for integration is very clearly now to try to expose a set of standard APIs and to move the integration functionality out of the core platform, enable you to build integrations using REST. That's the way they've delivered integrations in apps 10, and it's absolutely the same set of APIs that they're going to publish as part of IFS Cloud 2020 that they'll obviously continue to develop going forward and maintain backward compatibility going backwards. So I think it's really clear from IFS's perspective that they don't want to build complexity and customization to enable integration in the platform. They want to publish a standard API and have other things talk to IFS through that API. The work that we're jointly doing together, that Boomi and IFS are doing together to leverage that API, enable you to make use of it, really future-proofs both the IFS work, i.e. they can, from an IFS perspective, you can develop and maintain the platform, make sure you're keeping current, upgrading, etc., without integration being a blocker to that. And from Boomi's perspective, obviously, because you're then extracting the integration logic from IFS and building it in the Boomi platform, what you're really getting is a degree of abstraction from the application. So then it doesn't matter to your integration so much if you're upgrading IFS, your integrations just continue to work. So I think the key part of this is the choice that IFS made going into apps 10 to say we're going to publish a REST API. That's the way that you're going to talk to the IFS application, and to really enable you to do that. That's from an integration perspective, that's the reason that IFS chose to partner with Boomi, so that you have a really easy way to make use of those REST APIs.
Thank you, Peter. Next question. How much does the IFS connector cost?
So let me give you a long-winded answer to that one slightly. Let me talk about cost model first of all. So the way that we price. So Boomi as a platform has the multiplier in our platform there. How much does it cost when you start doing things is based on the number of endpoints, the number of applications that you connect together, number of unique instances of applications, to be properly specific. So if you're connecting an instance of IFS to an instance of SharePoint using the IFS REST connector and the HTTP technology connector, that's 2 things. If you were to then use another connector to connect to Salesforce, that would be 3 things. So we don't price on number of processes, number of users, volumes of data, blah, anything else. The multiplier, how much more expensive does it get, from a product perspective, is purely driven by how many things do you want to connect together. So from a future-proofing perspective, it's really nice, because the more you use our platform, if you've defined, if you want to connect IFS to 5 things at the start of the year, you're gonna require 5 connection licenses, sorry, 6 in that case, IFS and 5 others. What you'd require 6 what we call connection licenses. If you start pushing 100 messages a day through, and at the end of the year you're pushing 5,000 messages a day through it, it doesn't actually cost you any more. It's the pricing is based on the number of applications that you connect together. Now, to make it easy to consume the platform, we have a number of bundles that are base levels of functionality in the platform combined with a number of connectors. So the most base of those we call our base edition, which is 2 connectors. 1 connector on its own wouldn't make any sense. So we have 2 connectors as our base level, with basically no other functionality, no testing environment, and no additional environments, and there's a whole bunch of extra stuff you don't get. That's our test. That's our base, and then we go up through professional plus, enterprise plus as our additions, and they come with bundles of a certain number of connection licenses. So Professional has 5, 7, 20, 40 kind of as you go the thing, and then you can just add more connection licenses. So if you have Professional Plus 5 connections and you need more, you just buy some more connection licenses. Our model is we're a SaaS service, obviously, so we're subscription based. There's no upfront. You don't buy licenses for it. You just buy a subscription, and the actual pricing ranges from the base edition is a few $100s per month, all the way up to the enterprise editions several $1,000s a month. So the pricing is obviously tied to the number of connections, the number of applications you need, but we can always obviously talk about specific pricing, particular things as we go through. But it's a subscription based model based purely on the number of things that you want to connect together.
Lovely, thanks, Peter. Phil, did you need to add anything to that one at all, or? Oh, you need your microphone on.
I think Peter's been quite succinct there. If you have any queries, I would say inquiries, then please email myself and copy Peter, but I will coordinate with Peter and be able to come back to you with a quotation. Okay, lovely, thank you.
So next question. We have a specific need to interface data between Oracle Primavera and IFS Apps 10. Is there a document available that would describe in detail the functionality this would give us, as previous solutions have only provided a partial export of data?
Do you want me to take that one? I can. So Primavera is really interesting.
How are you, Hunter? Yes, please do.
Primavera is really interesting. We have built now 2 proof of concepts for IFS to Primavera integration for customers. It's the general feedback we've had from IFS and IFS customers is remarkably surprised at just how easy it is. So, and that's not just kind of making something up, because I would say that literally is. It's almost kind of, Phil might know this from his prior world in IFS, the feedback's almost kind of like, why didn't you tell me it was this easy before? Why was it so difficult in IFS Connect to do this, and why is it so easy in Boomi? And the platform just lends itself to that type of integration really well. So Primavera actually publishes a really complete API. So we have a technology connector on the Primavera side. We use the IFS 10 REST connector on the IFS side, and we built proof of concept. So we don't have, as of yet, a what we would call an accelerator, so a pre-built 80% done kind of integration thing. What we've done is proof of concepts to show it working, to exchange project information, customer information going forwards and backwards, etc. So I would suggest take that one up with Phil. Primavera is absolutely is something that we can do, and we can do really, really well. Typical, the complexity that Neil touched on of doing things in Connect versus simplicity of doing it within Boomi. I think the feedback, we don't know the old world, but the feedback that we've had in the new world is it's really easy in Boomi, particularly with Primavera P6. So and IFS, the examples that we've built are obviously Apps 10 Update 8 specific, so they're using the REST API on the IFS side. If we haven't done work on the Primavera to IFS using non-Apps 10, but it's obviously something we could look into as well. So yeah, I would encourage you to take that one up with Phil, because it is a really good area, an area I think we can show real benefit really quickly.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Did you want to add anything to that one?
Nothing more. Yeah, please get in touch with me.
Okay, thank you. Are there any online training courses for using this software?
Yep. So if you go to boomi.com/trial, you can sign up for a trial account. If you go to train.boomi.com, you can sign up for what we call our Boomi University. So a trial account is basically a time-limited, fully functional access to our platform. So that's typically a 30-day access, not functionally limited in any way. You sign up, do what you like with it, to get to use the platform. The university is basically all of our training courses, which all of the self-paced online training courses are available for free. Again, just go to train.boomi.com. You can sign up for a course there, and you can take, for example, our Boomi Fundamentals course, which will introduce you to the platform, get you using connectors, get you building processes, understanding maps, etc., etc. So all of that stuff is available online. It's all available for free. Just go ahead and sign up. You will then have 2 accounts, which confuses people a little bit. Specifically, it's very deliberate. You can have a trial account, which is just the platform, the kind of naked platform, if you like. And then your university account, your training account, is specific to the courses that you take. So we keep them separate so that when you're taking courses, for example, it will provision a bunch of processes and a load of connectors and a load of pre-built stuff that then the courseware talks you through using. So you know, if you sign up for a trial account and a training account, you actually have 2 accounts, and they're specific. So the training account is for the courses that you take, the trial account is for building your examples and testing and playing around and doing what you like. And that's all free, obviously.
Lovely, thank you. Now you may have answered some of this already, so if I'm going to repeat the question, but just in case there's anything that you didn't cover before. So what is the cost model for Boomi? Capacity/resource, per flow, per endpoint? Is there a list price based on the above?
Okay, so hopefully I covered most of that, but just to reiterate, we price on the number of unique endpoints is the multiplier. We don't price on number of processes, number of flows, amount of data, number of users, blah, any of that. We don't price on any of that. It's just the number of endpoints that you connect together. To be complete on that answer, the one place that we do price on data volume is if you use our cloud to host your atoms, which is an option. So we provide a cloud, a public cloud into which you can deploy atoms. If you use our public cloud, we kind of have a fair use model. Most customers don't do that for their production environments because you want to control where your data is going. Obviously, if you put your atom in our cloud, your data is coming to our cloud. So most people don't do that for production environments. So it's not a common issue, but just to give you the full and complete picture, if you use our cloud to run the production environment, then we have a fair use model and we'll charge you if you go outside of that. For the vast majority of cases, people don't use our public cloud in production, therefore they don't come across those costs. Therefore, the cost model is just the number of unique endpoints that you connect to the system. And again, just to be absolutely complete, by unique endpoint, we mean a particular instance of an application. So if you had 2 different instances of IFS, that wouldn't be 1 just because they both happen to be IFS. That would be 2 because there's 2 unique instances. 2 different URLs, for example, would be 2, not 1. We also, just again to give you the whole picture, the pricing is not, you don't buy a connector for IFS or for Salesforce or for HTTP or for anything else. You simply buy a number of connectors, and the count is how many connectors do you have actively in use. So when you go into our platform, you'll see all the connectors that are publicly available, all listed, and you can use any of them. So you don't buy a particular connector, you just buy the right to use 5 connectors. And it's the right to use 5 connectors actually in production, so pushed into a production environment in use. So again, it's really easy to model the cost of the platform because it's just how many things do I want to connect together.
Lovely, thank you. I've got a couple of questions that have come through as anonymous. I've sent you all a message saying who's asking, please. So if you haven't had an answer yet, that could be why. Next question, is all IFS licensing / pricing integral of Boomi license / cost? For example, if it was used to integrate a client system with IFS, say to sync work orders, is this permitted all under the Boomi cost? Or does IFS require extra licensing? If so, what is IFS's extra licensing model?
So this, I think, comes back to the exposure of the REST API by IFS. So when IFS but then chose to say, we're going to publish all of our stuff via REST, you don't pay to use the REST API. Boomi connects to that REST API. We have access to anything that the REST API has access to, and as I tried to show in that slide earlier on, we are actually literally using the same REST API that the Arena client uses to talk to the IFS backend. So there's no there's no special functionality that you need to turn on the IFS side. If an Arena client has access to it, then Boomi has access to it. There's nothing special to turn on. The one thing to keep in mind is Boomi needs the ability to connect to IFS. So in some way it needs a user license. So we use a user identity, and typically you would set up an integration user that was on the IFS side. So depending on how you license IFS, from a user perspective, you may need a user for that Boomi is going to use to access the data and drive those integrations. But no, there's nothing specific from a functionality or capability perspective that you need to buy.
Yeah, I should add, I think because this is rather new to us all, I would also suggest you coordinate with your account manager, and I can be part of that coordination as well. You don't want any surprises, fully understandable, and we need to bottom that out with each type of inquiry.
Yeah, and most obviously what I was just describing is the apps 10 update 8 situation using the REST API. For older versions of IFS where you might be using IFS Connect, that may have different licensing implications, and as Phil said, let's very happy to work through those with you and with IFS together.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Has Boomi developed a connector for data transfer between IFS Apps 10 and Oracle Primavera planning software?
Kind of touched on that one a little bit, I think. So
let me just read the rest of the question.
Sorry, go on,
just in case it's different. If so, is this an alternative to having to purchase the OPG Oracle Primavera Getaway license? Thanks.
Yes and yes. Sorry, no and yes. So no, we haven't built a specific connector for Primavera. We have we use technology connectors, but we have done that, and we have proof of concept, and we know it works, etc. No, you don't need the Primavera gateway to do it. We use the SOAP APIs, so it's you don't need the gateway to make use of those APIs.
Okay, lovely, thank you. What support do you offer for companies working with validated systems? Are you able to offer validation documentation or assistance?
I'm not sure I understand the question entirely. Does somebody want to?
We'll wait and see if we get an update on it then. So we'll give them a couple of minutes to give us a little bit clearer question. So next one, from an EDI perspective, do Boomi act as a VAN in terms of managing EDI links to all third parties?
So the short answer would be no. So our Boomi's EDI platform, our EDI capability is direct to a trading partner. So our EDI functionality is really to translate all the EDI formats into a format that Boomi understands with all the right metadata and structure and all that kind of stuff, and with the right communications protocols and all the things that are required to do that. So Boomi is not a VAN. We're a direct to trading partner connection. So if you are connecting to 25 different trading partners, you would build those 25 connections as trading partner entries within the Boomi platform that you're then integrating IFS to 25 trading partners. You don't need a VAN to do that. Having said that, if you want a VAN, we can also obviously connect to VANs. So you can go direct to trading partners, or you can go to a VAN and let the VAN do the work of consolidating the messages and structuring them in a particular format and doing all that kind of stuff and delivering them to you. So you have the choice. So you don't have to use a VAN if you use the Boomi EDI capability. If your environment is complicated and you don't want to set up and maintain all the trading partner connections yourself, you can go through a VAN. Having said that, we do have Boomi EDI partners who are building complex EDI networks with hundreds of trading partners built directly within Boomi. It's a choice. You know, they're then taking on the functionality, the task of maintaining the trading partner network connections themselves, because they see that as a more efficient way of doing it than paying a van to do it. Other customers choose to use a van because they see that as a more efficient way. So either approach is absolutely fine. Amanda, you're on mute.
Thank you, sorry. The question that you were going to come back to, I think you've already answered it elsewhere, so she says that's fine, thank you. And we have, are IFS happy that Boomi uses a full license, or would an EDI license be required?
Don't know the answer to that one. That's a lovely example of how we can work with Vanilla and IFS together to get you a detailed answer. That was a nice bluff, wasn't it? I don't know the answer to that one.
Yeah. I agree. I don't know the answer to that one. I think we need to work with IFS and get clarity.
Okay. And the final question that I have at the moment is, the demo reference apps 10. Is it possible to use this functionality with earlier versions, or would we need to be using apps 10?
So kind of just maybe recap on what we said earlier on. So IFS introduced the REST API, so published a standard API for interaction with IFS in apps 10. Specifically, it's apps 10 update 8, really, where that API became usable. So or fully featured, let's say. So the barrier is apps 10 update 8. You can use the REST API, and that is the going forward sort of motion for IFS. So apps 10 going forward, IFS Cloud 2020, future products, that will all be through a REST API. Prior to that, IFS didn't publish a standard API at all, so you don't have the ability to interact in the same way through a REST API, and that's where we would use the IFS Connect connector. We've also got customers who historically have done, you know, kind of backdoor stuff into IFS, if you like, straight at the database, that kind of stuff. Obviously, probably unsupported. There's probably lots of different ways that you know to do integration. All of those would be doable with Boomi, because through our technology connectors, we have a database connector that can connect to Oracle, for example. But the preferred way, obviously, with prior versions of IFS would absolutely be to go through IFS Connect, expose and import a web service that then Boomi can connect to that web service. So the bar is really IFS apps 10 update 8 is where the REST interface really comes in, and that's the interface going forward for all future versions of IFS, and then for prior versions it's Connect or a technology connector.
Just to add on to that, I think if there is a specific use case example that you've got in mind, whoever's asking that question, then if you send that to Phil, it may be something we've looked at already. We've got a few proof of concepts on the go already using the Connect connector for previous versions. So that certainly wouldn't rule anything out on that front.
Yeah, Phil's now joined me in the list of people that really hate the fact that IFS Connect is called that. So you end up saying IFS Connect connector all the time and try not to trip over it. Even with the same pause in the middle that I use, Phil. Sorry, Neil.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay, lovely. Well, I think that. Oh, bear with me. Still coming in. Are Vanilla a resupplier for Boomi, as with Novacura Flow, or would a customer deal with Boomi directly in terms of commercials and support, etc.?
Want to take that one, Phil, or do you want me to?
Yeah. Peter, please add anything. Vanilla are a resupplier of Boomi, and we would communicate and coordinate with Peter for commercials and support. I should also add that IFS are as well. But yes, I think that you have a choice.
Yeah, and I think what we're trying to do is, with the broader partnership, the broader relationship that we have with IFS and IFS's partner community and with Vanilla, is to make sure that you've got the right. whatever options are the right options for you, you can acquire directly from us. There's lots of different models that we can use to make sure that we deliver the right solution in the right for the right customer. There's lots of different ways through it, and I'm sure we can find the right one for any particular customer need.
Okay, thank you. On the connector front, I understand the IFS app instance is licensed separately, so 2 instances, 2 connectors, but things like CSV files, emails, SQL, are they licensed once for unlimited amount of of file locations / emails / inbox, SQL databases, etc.?
That's quite a detailed question. Or at least quite a detailed answer, quite a simple question. Things like CSV, yeah, it's typically a single. SQL, it's by connection string. So or databases by connection string. So that's normally a database. So it depends on database structure and all that kind of stuff, but think of it as a unique URL, something that as soon as you have a unique URL that you're going to use to connect using a JDBC driver or something to a database, once that URL becomes unique, that requires another connection license. So there is when you build a connection operation in Boomi, there will be you fill in the URL that you're going to use, let's say for a JDBC operation against a SQL Server database or an ADBC database, or an Oracle database. That string will normally contain the name of the database rather than just the name of the server, so it can be unique down to the level of the database rather than just the server, but it depends. But yeah, think of it always as what's the URL. If the URL is different that you would use to connect to it, that's another connection license. But talk to us directly. There's lots of nuances around that. So we try to make connection licensing match the kind of logic, if you like, that goes with it. So there are scenarios where logically it feels like one thing, but the way that it happens to work, it ends up requiring lots of licenses, and we try to find appropriate ways to make that licensing work. We don't try to kind of do you over just because it happens that. Let me give you a good example. That the MFT managed file transfer, if you're using that, you can end up with dozens and dozens and dozens of URLs for lots of different endpoints that you're trying to do MFT to. We kind of try to say, well, that's actually one sort of process, so let's work out a way to make the licensing work. That's there's nuances around it all, but the easiest way to think of it always is unique URL.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. So I hope you enjoyed that and found it to be useful and informative. A big thank you to Neil, Peter and Philip for their presentations, and thank you to Vanilla and Boomi for supporting the IFS UK and Ireland User Group Summer Conference. I think we're pushing it a little bit, but
I've got a jumper on, Amanda. You can't call it a summer conference. It's pretty today.
Me too.
We've got one more event planned in 2020, and we're currently very busy making plans for 2021. So if there's any subjects you'd like us to include, or if you're desperate to tell us about a project you've been working on, we would love to hear from you. Thank you all very much for attending today, and thank you for your continued support of the user group. Please send us feedback about this event so that we can improve if necessary. Stay safe and well, and hopefully we will see you all in person in the not too distant future. Thank you very much.